Dr. Miller, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. It was probably about 15 years ago that I first met you, and you were getting your Ph.D. in physics from Duke University, and you Duke friends here today, and you got your undergraduate from M.I.T. in Boston, and while you were at M.I.T., your faith in Christ was rocked, and then I met you in church many years ago. Kind of tell us what happened here.
What happened was, when I was in college, I went through a lot of intellectual challenges in the faith, things like evolution, issues of philosophy. And one of the biggest challenges was I saw a lot of people follow a Christianity without power. And when I came to Kings Park, it was extraordinary to see the fact that what people preached, they actually lived out. And they actually experienced the supernatural power of God. And that's what really showed me that the faith was real.
Kind of put you on a different journey for your life, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The course of my life was radically transformed since coming to the spiritual community.
And you've added value to so many churches and campus groups literally all over the world. And I commend you for what you've done and what you represent. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things as a scientist, which you are a scientist, and you're also an amazing theologian and educator and so many things that you are, but as I guess your deepest passion and calling is probably a scientist, I would assume.
That's definitely one of the strongest callings in my life.
And one of the things that you and I have been discussing lately is the growing movement called the intelligent design movement. Could you maybe tell us, I've been reading about it everywhere, Time Magazine, seeing it on the news, court cases that are coming up, local communities, literally all over the place. This is a movement that seems to be here to stay. Can you tell us what that is and how that influences our lives?
Well, the intelligent design movement is a movement of top scholars, theologians, scientists, mathematicians who've come together to present a very credible and very powerful scientific argument for the truth that there is design in nature.
Design in nature. Well, I believe that. I don't have a hard time with that at all. You know, when I look at Mount Rushmore, for example, and if you're an international student here, Mount Rushmore is one of our famous historic landmarks in one of the Dakotas. I'm sorry, I've never been there. And it's carved in images in a mountain of four of our great leaders and pioneers in the United States. But when I look at Mount Rushmore, I don't normally think first thought that erosion made that happen or just natural chance. Is that what we're talking about here in intelligent design?
Well, in fact, that's exactly the case, because what happens when you look at Mount Rushmore, you actually go through a scientific methodology to say to yourself, yeah, that's designed, while a picture of face on Mars you know is not designed. In the same way, if you apply the same criteria to life, that also shows that objectively, life shows evidence of design.
Dr. Miller, a lot of us as Christians believe in the creation account, and we're not here to discuss all the ramifications of Genesis chapter 1, Genesis chapter 2, of course, but we believe that God is our creator. We believe in essence in a Big Bang. Matter of fact, I was speaking to the Big Banger this morning, and God sure is good. You know, He's great. He sure did start this thing by the word of His power. But tell us real quickly, what is the difference between creationism and the intelligent design movement?
Well, creationism was an attempt of Christians to argue that the chapters of Genesis represent what really happened scientifically on the earth. And it was typically more of a religiously based movement, and it was typically aimed at encouraging Christians. The intelligent design movement is a purely scientific movement that's geared towards convincing both the scientific community and the general populace.
What do you attribute to the resurgence of this intelligent design movement? It wasn't, Darwin was winning the day 100 years ago, and now all of a sudden there's this growing movement that is just almost come out of nowhere and is gaining tremendous steam with academicians, scholars, scientists. This is not some, backshed kind of not prominent people. These are some amazing people discussing this and leading the front in this.
Well, there's two elements that have really helped it to propel it to the front of our culture. One is a lot of recent scientific discoveries. In the last several decades, people have been able to look at the structure of the cell in far greater detail than ever before. And when they look at the structure of the cell, they see what look like biological machines. That's one aspect. Also, there's been a much more strategic effort to present the clear evidence for design in nature and not get sidetracked by secondary issues that many Christians have argued about.
One of the great surprises, I guess, that we're all finding out is what a great friend the child of God has in science.
That's in fact the case. In fact, most people don't realize that modern science was actually birthed out of a Christian culture, Western Europe, because the Christian faith uniquely gives the assumptions of reality that allow science to progress.
So when people are all up in arms about, well, the church they were the ones who resisted Galileo. The church looked like basically idiots in that movie Inherit the Wind, which was the movie where Spencer Tracy played the famous lawyer Clarence Darrow in the Scopes Monkey trials. And it seems like that some of that blemish, so to speak, is being lifted right now.
That's in fact the case. In fact, it's important to realize that even the portrayal of the conflict of science and faith is somewhat mythical. It's somewhat of misrepresentation of history. But there has been tensions. But certainly because of the newest scientific evidence, it's becoming very clear that science and faith are becoming united as it was long ago.
I think that's great news.
Definitely.
It's wonderful. Maybe in closing here, why is this relevant to an average person sitting in this congregation this morning? What's the relevance of the intelligent design movement?
Well, it's important to realize that the issue of design versus chance and nature is not simply a scientific issue, but the issue really is the creation story of society, because the issue of creation is what creates the foundation of a person's philosophy of life. If a person thinks they're simply here by chance, that has huge implications about their view of their self-identity and their purpose. Well, if they recognize they're created by God, that has extraordinary implications about the great purpose that God would have for them.
So we're either lucky mud or we're purposefully created unto some great calling.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I'm having so much fun, but we really need to get to our guest speaker. Can we continue this discussion tomorrow in my office?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.